Okay, ji, let's start. So now we are going to study and discuss socket programming uh, in TCP. Okay, so socket programming with TCP. So as we know that in TCP protocol, so the server must client must contact the server, and the server process must first be running. So it should be running. So server must have created socket door that welcomes the client contacts. So first we have to run the server. Why? Because in the TCP, before exchanging the data, the client and server, they establish connection. Okay, so they establish connection. The TCP, the client and server, before exchanging data, they establish connection, the TCP connection. Okay, so the client will send the request for connection. So the server should be first running. It should be running already. Okay, it should be running. It should be waiting for the client's request. And when the client request to the server, so the server is running. So when the client's request or the contact is arrived at the server, so server will respond. Okay, so this is the first thing, that the client, the server should be running first and should be waiting for the connection establishment. The clients, it creates the TCP socket and it specifies the IP address and port number of server, because it has to first contact with the server. So the client should know the IP address and the port number of the server. Okay, so when the client creates the socket, so client basically first establish the TCP connection with the server. Okay, so how it is established? So already the client sent a request and the server is already waiting for the request. So when the server is contacted by the client, then the server creates the TCP new socket. One socket is used for connection request, and when a connection request arrives for a client from a client, the server accepts and the server creates a new socket for the client, and the previous socket, it is already used for connection establishment. So if other clients wants to connect, so that socket can be used for connection establishment. And this second socket, which is created when the client request is arrived, so the TCP server creates a new socket for the client. For each client, it creates a new socket. So for the server process to communicate with the particular clients, so this allows a server to talk with multiple clients. So in the TCP server, how it talks to multiple clients? So for each client, it creates a new socket. Okay, so the source port number is used to distinguish the client. For when a new socket is created, so a new port is opened. A new source port, a new port is opened at the server side. Okay, so that port number is used to distinguish that the data is for which client. Okay, so we will also discuss it in the program as well. So from application point of view, the TCP provides reliable data transfer. The TCP protocol, we will discuss it in the next chapter, that the TCP, it provides reliable data transfer. Reliable means that there is no packet loss. It ensures that there is no packet loss, and it also ensures that the data is in order. As the data is sent by the client, in the same order the data will be received by the receiver, by the server. And it is a byte stream protocol, so we will discuss it. Okay, so the TCP, its difference from the UDP is that first the client should establish connection with the server. This is the first difference. The second difference is that when the client when the client request arrives, so the server accept the client request for connection establishment, and the server creates another socket for a client. So for each client there is a separate socket, and the previous socket that is created, it is used for the connection establishment only. Okay, so this is the second difference. And the third difference is that the TCP, it provides reliable data transfer. So the data will be received without loss. So the TCP, it has mechanisms to ensure that there is no data loss and the data is received in order. So we will discuss them later on. Okay, so this is the overview of TCP socket programming. Okay, now how the client server socket interaction happens in the TCP. So first, as we have discussed, the TCP server should be running on a host, and how we can create it. So first we have to create a socket, and that socket should have a port number. You can also specify the IP address, but as I have explained in the UDP socket programming, that here we can provide the server, the IP address and port number both, but usually we provide only port number. If we provide the port number, so it can use any IP address of that system. For example, if this system has 3 IP addresses like 1.1.1, 2.2.2, so if we don't specify IP address, then it will receive the data on both IP addresses. If the data is arrived on any of IP address, but with the destination port number 1028, then it will be delivered to this socket, and the data is of TCP. Okay, so if we specify the IP address, for example, if we specify IP address 1.1.1 and port number 1028, so it will only accept that data which is arrived for the IP address 1.1.1 and port number 1028. Okay, so I can explain it like, if for this detail you can go to server socket. Server socket, it is a built-in class that is available in Java. Okay, let me show it to you. This is the slide. Okay, so this is the built-in class for TCP socket, server socket. Okay, you can see it. Okay, so the server socket, it can have one syntax is that we only provide port number. Okay, and the second option is that we can provide port number as well as backlog. Backlog means that how many connection at a time can be accepted. Okay, similarly we can provide the IP address as well, and we can provide all three, or we can provide any of them. It depends. Okay, so at least the port number should be, even if we cannot, even if we don't specify the port number, the IP address. Okay, like in this way. So in this way, the operating system will randomly take any port number. Okay, and the default value of the backlog, and the IP address, it will be used any. Okay, so therefore this is the syntax, and if you know about the Java language, Java programming, so I think it will be much easy for you. Okay, so now the TCP, when this socket is created, server socket is created, so now the server is listening, is waiting for this port number for connection request. Okay, now the client, it will create a socket. Okay, so it will specify the server IP address and port number. So this socket is used to create the client TCP socket. So this is socket, this is the built-in class in Java. Okay, so in this class, when you create, so you have to specify the server IP address and port number. Okay, So when you specify it, so when you create this socket class method, call it, when you call it, so it will basically send a request for TCP connection, and we will discuss this TCP connection establishment process. Okay, so it will send the TCP connection request. So it is already waiting, the server is waiting for the connection request. So when the connection request arrives, so it accepts the connection, and it accepts the connection, and then again it creates a new socket, okay, and then socket is called server. So now this server socket, it is returned by accept method. In accept method, the server socket, it is waiting for connection. So when the connection from the client request is arrived, so server socket accept the connection, and it creates a new socket which is called server. Okay, so if you want to send the data to this client, so you have to use this server socket. And again, this server socket, server socket, it is waiting for the new connection, for other connection request. Okay, so if you want to send the data, if you want to receive the data, so you can call this server method data input stream. You can if you know about the Java language, so you should know about data input stream and data output stream. So this is for the data, it reads the data from the server, from the socket, and the data is read, so the data can be displayed. Similarly, when the client connection is established with the server, so the client can send the data. How it can send the data? For example, by using output stream. Okay, so here it is sending the data, client says hello message. So we will discuss it. So after you have exchanged the data and now you want to close, so if you have finished your working, if the program functionality is finished, its working is finished, so you must remember to close both server socket and server socket and the socket server as well as the client socket. Okay, so for closing any socket, you have to use like socket variable and its close method. Okay, so now let's discuss the example of TCP server. I will share its program with you, and you can run this program as well. Okay, so these are the methods these are the libraries, the packages that are imported, that are built and available in the Java. So we are more interested in this Java.NET. This Java.NET import, this library, it has the socket library. Okay, so in the TCP server, this is a class. So we first of all, we have to create a server socket. So for server socket, I use the port 1028, and I don't specify the IP address. So it means that it can use any IP address. Any IP address means that if the request arrives on any IP address, on any LAN card, so but the destination port number is 1028 and the TCP request, so that packet will be delivered to this server socket. Okay, this server socket. So this server socket is created, and you can also print the local port number. So it will be 1028. Okay, now the server socket is waiting for the connection request by calling server socket.accept. Again, this accept is a built-in method that is available in the server socket class. Server socket class is a built-in class, the TCP server class, that is available in the Java.NET library. Okay, so now it is waiting for the connection request. So when the connection arrives, so it is accepted, and when it is accepted, so a new socket is created. A new socket is created for the client, and their socket name is suppose server. Okay, so after this we can get the data from the server. When the server data is arrived, so that data can be displayed. Okay, and when the data is arrived, that data can be displayed, and then the server also can send the data by using data output stream. So data input stream, data output stream, these are the Java classes, libraries, are the Java functions that are used for input and output. Okay, so I assume that you know about Java, so you should know about these syntax. So only I am showing you the server socket and the socket. These are the used for socket programming. Okay, so now let's discuss the TCP. If you want to access this code, I will share you, but you can also get the help from this website. Okay, now let's discuss the TCP client method. Okay, the TCP client method, again, these are the libraries, and you are already familiar with it, I assume it, because you should know the Java. If you don't know Java, then you cannot program, you cannot write a program in Java. Okay, so in this so you should know about this, and this import.javanet, this is the library, this is the package for socket programming. Okay, so it should be called. In the TCP client, suppose we create a socket. So when we create a socket, so we should specify the server IP address and a server port. Why? Because when this socket is created, so this is the client socket, so it will send the connection request to the server. So when it sends the connection request to the server, so the server IP address and port number should be passed. And this is the syntax of this socket, and it is already defined in java.net. Okay, if you want to access it, so you can have here this these are the methods that are defined here. Okay, in the Java programming, you can see this method. Okay, this is defined in the socket. Okay, so when you create a socket, so you have to, because it will send the connection request to a server, so you must pass the server IP address and port number. Okay, so when this socket is created, so it will send the connection request to this server and this port number. So in this server name, there is stored IP address 127. This is the loopback address, because I am running the client and server on the same machine, so that's why I use loopback address. Okay, this is also called localhost, and it is available in each and every system. Okay, so when this method succeeds, that is, the connection is established, then after this we can send the data. For sending the data, we can use output stream. So you should know about output stream. Okay, so then the client can send the data by out.write. So for this purpose, you should use output stream and data output stream. So these are the classes, built-in classes of Java that should be used. Okay, so it will send the data. Client says hello, this message, and and the client local socket address. How this is used, for this purpose you should explore the java.net library and its functions. What are the functions available for each class? For the socket class, which methods are available? For example, you can see it. Okay, these are the methods and that are available in socket. Okay, like a get port, get local port, socket address, get input stream, etc., and so on, so on. Okay, so for this purpose, you should know about the Java, these things, you should explore it. Okay, so the client sends the data to the server, and then server is reading the data from the client. Okay, so for this purpose, we use input stream and data input stream. So these are the Java libraries, packages, you should know about it. So, so how it is read? It is read by read UTF method. Okay, so when the server data is received, so the server data is displayed here. Okay, so this is all about the TCP client program. Okay, so in the next video I will show you this program the TCP client and the TCP server, these program will be run and its working will be shown to you. So it can run, but I will also share this code with you so that you can also download it and you can also use it. Okay. Okay, if you want to learn more about socket programming, so I would say to you that first of all you have to do what? Okay, let me explain to you. So up to now we have just discussed about an overview about how you can write a socket program for UDP and TCP. Okay, so I assume that if you want to develop the product for internet applications, okay, so what do you need? First of all, you should know about the computer networking. Okay, so and this course that we are studying, it is about the computer networking, its concepts, its working, its protocols, its theory, that is necessary. The second thing that you should know is the strong programming. You should be very strong in a particular programming language, for example Java. Okay, then you can develop the products. So what do you know about the programming? For example, you should know multi-threading. Up to now we have just explained to you simple programs. So sometimes you need simultaneous read and write from the socket. So if you want to read and write both simultaneously, for this purpose you must use multi-threading. Similarly, if the TCP client is server, it wants to handle multiple connections at the same time. If the TCP server wants to handle multiple connection of the clients, and for each client, if it wants to simultaneously read and write the data from the clients, so for this purpose you use multi-threading. So the multi-threading, what is multi-threading? What is multi-threading? So this is the operating system concept, and it is available in each and every language, I think. So in Java you can use multi-threading. Okay, so if you want to explore those topics, so you can see this link, it is available there. Okay, similarly you can also use GUI based programming. Up to now I have just explained to you command line. Okay, so you can develop your GUI, graphical user based programming. So for this purpose you can use, for example, in the Java Swing and AWT classes. Okay, so if you want to develop it, so you should know about the strong programming. This is necessary, and you should explore such topic. If you know about these programming, I'm sure that you must have studied a particular programming language. So if you have studied it, then you must have to practice it. If you want to practice this, so the network programming is the best option for you. So in this course, I think you should you should test these protocol using practically by developing these applications. Similarly, you should explore the protocols, different protocols. For example, we just use TCP and UDP. You can also have the HTTP. In some languages, the HTTP protocol are built-in libraries available, but you can also develop your own. You can use those libraries as well, the built-in libraries, and you can develop your like Internet Explorer, Mozilla like applications. One of your student, like for example, he asked me that if I want to use persistence connection, so how I can practice it. So this is the socket programming. It is available, so you can use it. Similarly, the DNS. What is DNS? We have already discussed it. So you can also practice the DNS by using socket programming. Even for the DNS working, there are libraries available in Java, in other languages as well. Even in the operating system, the applications are available. For example, NS lookup, it is available. But if you want to develop your own, so you can also use socket programming. Similarly, for audio video communication, multimedia communication, JMF is used. This language, Java Media Framework, JMF. It is built and available. It has all the things, the RDP, TCP, and protocol that are necessary for audio video communication. Okay, so you have to explore these things, and you can also develop these libraries by yourself according to your new requirements. This is the beauty of socket programming. So if you are studying this course, computer networking, and you want to practice the theory, you want to develop practical application, so you must know the programming language, and you must know the socket. I think the socket is clear. You know about the programming language, and you are studying the computer network concept, so you just apply it, and you can explore these libraries. Okay, so I expect from you that you should do it if you want to go into industry and you want to develop practical applications, so you must know it. So it is strongly recommended. It is required code. This socket programming, it is required for the computer networking course, and it should be practiced in the lab. Okay. More about socket programming, I would also require like that. First of all, you should, if you want to work on the system level, so I would strongly recommend to you that you should study this book, Unix Network Programming Volume 1. It is by Richard Stewart. Volume 1, first volume. It is about Unix programming in C++ on the Linux platform. Even in this, so it is very, if you want to do hacking, if you want to develop a new protocol, so this is required for you. Even there is a library which is called PCAP library. It is used for packet sniffing or for sending the packet with another IP address. So you can explore this library. So along with this socket programming, there are certain tools that are developed, that are available for developing the applications. So you should explore ODL controller, Open Daylight. It is used in practice. This is the SDN controller that is available, and it is open source. It is Java language based, and it is open source available. Okay, so if you know the networking concept, the socket programming, but you also have to learn this ODL controller. Like for example, if you want to develop an application on Windows, so you should know the window, its library, how it works. So similarly, you should also know this controller, Open Daylight, if you want to develop the SDN products. Okay, so this is again, this is another tool which is used by Google, YouTube, and so on for cloud computing. And this is OpenStack. You must know it. So if you know computer networking concepts, you know the programming language, but you should also know, if you want to develop a product for OpenStack, so you should know about OpenStack. Okay, so these are just some suggestions that can be used to develop such kind of applications. And I would strongly recommend to you that you should explore these things and you should learn about it. Okay, so this is about socket programming. So in this course, this class, I just give you an overview. But the rest of these of the topics, like multi-threading, GUI based, more protocols to explore, audio video communication, etc. And if you want to do hacking, you want to do packet sniffing, etc. So different libraries that are developed, so you can use it. and you can develop your own programs, your own application products. In this course, I would like that if you want to develop the semester project, so this is the best case for you. So I would like such kind of semester level projects. Okay. So in the chapter number 2 is summary. So we have in chapter number 2 we have discussed application architecture, client server, peer-to-peer and hybrid. What are the application layer responsibility? Okay. So what is required? What are the requirements of application layer? And we also discussed that application layer, when it is designed, so it relies on transport layer. So on the transport layer we have TCP and UDP. So we discussed it just in overview. In the next chapter we are going to discuss the TCP and UDP in more detail. A whole chapter is devoted for the TCP and UDP. Okay, for the transport layer. So similarly we also discuss, these are just general point of view about the application layers. We also discuss some example application layer protocols that are used in practice. For example, HTTP. So we discuss the working of HTTP. Also, it is to know about more detail about the HTTP. So you should read the HTTP RFC. We also discussed the DNS, its working. Also, we also discussed the P2P BitTorrent, and we also discussed socket programming. These two topics, SMTP and video streaming, they are not discussed. So therefore, these are just skipped. So you can study it by yourself. If you have some problem, we can discuss it. Okay. So with this chapter ends. Okay. So this chapter is now concluding. And regarding the TCP client server program, these are the programs, you can run it and it will work. Okay, but if you have some problem, then we can discuss it. Okay, you can discuss it with me. Okay, so this chapter is now in. So now next we will discuss the transport layer. Okay, any